We welcome back here on the Rich Eisen Show. Our friend from Pro Football Talk and PFT Live is what kicks off our former spot, NBC Sports on Peacock, every single day. And we say happy 28th wedding anniversary to a man at Pro Football Talk. Joining us here on the Mercedes-Benz Vans phone line, Mike Florio. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing great, Rich. Thank you very much for that. My wife is allowing me to work today, which is not really much of a sacrifice. It's less time she has to deal with me. So it's for her a very good day.
Do you know what's the precious metal for 28 years? Do you know that off the top of your head, Mike? Do we know that? What you must
zinc.
Is it?
Zinc.
Hold on, Brockman, you've got it. What is it?
Orchids.
Orchids. Oh, that's easy. Go to the shop.
Orchids.
Now I got to go find some orchids.
Look at that. Look at that. We got the photograph that you tweeted out. Oh my goodness gracious.
Hair still on point.
Yes, really, Mike. That's impressive. That is impressive.
And mostly mine.
Well, at any rate, happy anniversary to you, and as you referred to it, Mrs. PFT. Well done, right there. All right, let's start first up with Matt Araiza and what is going on and what the league must be thinking about it. And they don't have any jurisdiction to place him under the personal conduct policy because this happened before he was a pro. Is that the case, Mike?
Anything that happens before guys drafted or signs an undrafted free agent contract is off limits. Now, if he would get in any sort of off-field trouble in the future under the personal conduct policy, penalties could be expedited or enhanced or both because of the past incident. Whatever the facts may be, it becomes relevant to the examination then. But if he never gets in any issues, it's never something that factors into what the league could do. But realistically, you take a step back. This isn't Deshaun Watson. This isn't a quarterback. This is a punter. Now, I don't know what the Bills knew back in April. There have been reports that they didn't know about this. They became aware of it at some point since then. What would they have done differently if they had known about this? Would they have used a sixth-round pick if they had known about these allegations? What have they learned if, presumably, they've investigated it? And what will they do moving forward? They could cut him if they wanted to. Now, the union could file a grievance, and they may have to pay him his salary. But if you believe, based upon the investigation that you perform, the league has resources, the Bills have resources, if they come to the conclusion that they think this guy may be responsible for what he did, he's a punter. You find a different punter. And I know punters are people too, but that is the most interchangeable position on a football team other than long snapper and holder. And do the Bills want to carry this cloud into their season? Does the NFL want Matt Araiza punting on NBC in 13 days when the Bills and the Rams play to start the season? I don't think it's something the NFL would want, and I presume that they would put him on paid leave if he fell within that specific portion of the personal conduct policy, but he doesn't because it happened before he got drafted.
Is there such a thing for a team paid leave where the team has like their own exempt list in the way that the commissioner would have?
That power went away in the 2006 CBA after what the Eagles did to Terrell Owens, and before that the Buccaneers did it to Keyshawn Johnson, where they basically sent him home with pay. But if the guy agrees to it, like last year, Deshaun Watson, happy to get paid to not play for the Texans. Maybe Jimmy Garoppolo this year, happy to get paid to not play for the 49ers. If the Bills would go to him and say, look, here's what we're going to do. We're going to deactivate you every week. You're still on the 53-man roster. You're still part of the team, but we're going to have a different punter, and you're just not going to suit up and you're not going to play while this goes forward. And if he's okay with it, it's not a problem. It's only a problem if he says, no, I insist on my right to be on the roster and I don't agree to go along with this. And if that's the case, then it gets more complicated. But they could do it. And we've seen it. As long as the player's okay with it, the team could do it.
And then, I just learned about this yesterday, as most of us did, right? So from what I have read, it appears that the detectives in this case, who actually were on what I read as a pretext call with the victim, the alleged victim, and Araiza, before we get to where the detectives are with this case, and I ask you about that, what is a pretext call? Because that is the most damning portion of the civil lawsuit that I read. yesterday.
Well, that is, and I did not handle criminal defense work when I practiced law, but it appears to be a device that allows detectives to listen in to conversations that potentially would be incriminating, and it sounds like there were some incriminating things said there as it relates to whether or not there were sexual relations between Araiza and the 17-year-old girl. His lawyer did a TV interview last night, and he basically admitted that something happened. The position is there was nothing forcible, that he didn't know she was under 18, which introduces a completely different set of problems because in California you have to be 18 years of age, and there are some exceptions, and one of them would be that he's young enough that he just really didn't know and she misrepresented her age, et cetera. So there are various potential avenues for criminal liability, and it sounds like on this call he said some things that complicate his situation and things that could lead the Bills to become sufficiently concerned that they would take some sort of action about it.
And then, according to the LA Times, the detectives just recently delivered their findings to authorities about whether now placing it in front of people whose decision it is to charge or not. So my question for you is, based on whatever knowledge you may have on similar circumstances, how long do you think does that take usually? Because I'm wondering if a team-paid leave that Araiza would accept as opposed to being cut is a workable, for the moment, response. Do you think?
We fall back to the same situation we were in with Deshaun Watson, where a grand jury potentially could be presented with the evidence. Would the prosecutor be motivated to get an indictment, understanding that eventually you have to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt? How aggressively would the prosecutor push for an indictment? Is there a mechanism for charging without a grand jury? So it all comes down to, ultimately, does a prosecutor believe that he or she can prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt? Prosecutors don't like to take on cases that they think they may lose, and they have incredible power and discretion. They're the most powerful individuals in any local justice system, more so than the judges, because the judges are limited by what's put on their docket. The prosecutors are the ones who decide what gets put on the docket and what doesn't. So that subjective assessment of the case, the belief in whether or not they can prove it beyond a reasonable doubt, that goes a long way toward determining whether or not charges are going to be filed here. And it obviously reaches a very different level if he would be indicted for some sort of felony crime under California law. At that point, he may not want to be on the Buffalo Bills. He may want to focus all of his time and efforts on preparing his defense, exonerating his name, and then, if he's able to, and then continuing his career at some point in the future.
Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk creator and also author of Playmakers, where all books are sold, right here on the Rich Eisen Show. What do you make of the Aaron Donald helmet swing and the effects that it may have on the league's thinking, the Rams, the Bengals? What do you got for me there, Mike?
It's amazing to me that the league has no authority over players who engage in misconduct in joint practice. When you look at the personal conduct policy, why wouldn't they? There's a specific provision in there that prevents violence or threatened violence in any workplace setting. And the way that we understand the personal conduct policy, it applies anywhere you are, on duty, off duty, any day of the year, any portion of the globe. If you do something that falls within any of those categories, you can and will be punished by the NFL. I think they should activate Judge Sue L. Robinson. I think they should propose a punishment. And if the union huffs and puffs, and if the union is able to pull some legal rabbit out of a hat, so be it. At least the NFL took a stand. Because, Rich, one of the first things Sean McVay, the coach of the Rams, said is, well, nobody was injured. Well, this time nobody was injured. Can you imagine getting hit by a helmet swung by someone with the strength and power of Aaron Donald? Sooner or later, one of these incidents is going to happen, and someone's going to have a traumatic brain injury, or worse. And what are they going to do then? Say, oh, we didn't think that could ever happen. Well, how many times do you have to see a guy swing a helmet like a weapon before you recognize that one of these days he's going to hit that guy in the wrong spot, and there's going to be a serious outcome? And I think it's incumbent on the Rams and the league. The Rams aren't going to do anything about it. The only way the Rams would do anything about it is if the league says to the Rams, and I checked on this last night, the league has the power to impose punishment on the Rams for not controlling their guys. If the league would say to the Rams, here's what we're going to do to you if you don't suspend Aaron Donald, then maybe the Rams would do it. Maybe there's a way that happens. but I think something needs to happen here. It's a horrifying image. And I know it's Aaron Donald. I know he's one of the most popular players in the league, and I know the idea of him not being available 13 days from now for Bills-Rams would be disappointing to people. But look at what they did to Myles Garrett, and how can we say that what Aaron Donald did yesterday was any different, other than we don't have a clear shot of somebody taking a helmet over the top of their head like Mason Rudolph did 3 years ago.
Mike Florio here on the Rich Eisen Show. Let's hit a couple of stories that have been out there for months, right? I mean, just sitting there, and we've been talking about it and ruminating about it and wondering what the eventual ending will be. And it seems like we're going to get an answer in the next couple of weeks, starting with Lamar Jackson's contract conversation. What's the latest on that with the Ravens and Jets set to play in a couple Sundays?
This continues to be a situation where you've got two sides speaking two different languages because there's no agent to serve as the go-between between Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. And I don't think they're going to get it done by week one. Now, after that, who knows? And there's a chance that the Ravens put their best offer on the table and Jackson realizes it's in his best interest to take it and to not continue to roll the dice with his financial best interests and the reality that he could suffer an injury that would make him less financially attractive in the future. It reminds me of what happened with Roquan Smith, the Bears linebacker. He represents himself. Who's there to have that conversation with the player when he's evaluating that last best offer from the team? Because I've heard this from many agents over the years. At some point, they'll say, I think I could get him more. He probably deserves more. But if this were my son, I couldn't tell him in good conscience to not take this. Sometimes you need that voice with experience, wisdom, and just a broader understanding of what potentially happens next if you don't take it. So there's a chance that he has that epiphany and decides to take their best offer. But if he doesn't, all bets are off moving forward, and they may never do a deal. After this season, who knows what's going to happen. But I think that right now it would be a surprise if they manage to work it out.
So just so I'm aware here, how does it work? So it's possible that Lamar goes from the film room with Greg Roman, his OC, has that conversation, goes to the quarterback room, chit-chats with the quarterbacks, and then Eric DeCosta knocks on the door. The GM says, let's come up to my office, and then the two of them have a contract conversation. That's literally the way it's working right now in Baltimore?
That's the way it's supposed to work, and because of the stuff that happened a couple of weeks ago with Roquan Smith, where someone who isn't certified by the union was calling teams to try to generate trade interest, even though the Bears had not given permission for it. The league sent out a memo saying, look, when guys represent themselves, you can only negotiate with the player. And what some players are doing, they actually do use someone who isn't NFLPA certified, and they've got like a burner email account, and that agent, air quotes agent, pretends to be the player in the negotiations. Now, I'd like to think the Ravens are sufficiently astute that they're not going to do anything that could potentially get them in trouble with the league, but that just makes it more difficult, makes it even harder to try to get to an end result, given that at this point they're focused on week one, or they should be. And at some point, that's why it needs to end, and they need to stay focused on week one. I remember last year he wasn't interested. This year, at least, he's engaged, but without an agent. And I understand the arguments against it, but the argument for it is so clear. You're a football player. You're an expert in football. You're not an expert in negotiating. Hire someone who is, and you get the deal done that you deserve, and you can focus on the thing that you're best at. So
you just feel the way things are talking right now, it doesn't get done, or you just feel that's the, it's a 12:01 league, right? 1 minute after midnight.
Well,
so could this be just
what it comes down to is, what's their best offer? That's all negotiation is about. You're trying to coax the absolute best offer out of the person you're negotiating with. Once it's on the table, then you can evaluate it. If it's truly the best offer, there's always potential. There's a little bit more and a little bit more. But let's say the Ravens put their absolute best bottom line offer on the table early next week. They got a week before they're fully focused on the Jets. Here we go. This is it. This is all we're going to do. This is what we're willing to pay you. Take it or leave it. Then the question becomes, is he able to properly come to the conclusion that offer is better for him than taking $23 million this year, and rolling the dice next year, either with a franchise tag from the Ravens or another team trying to trade for him, which is possible. Which level of franchise tag is exclusive and non-exclusive, and non-exclusive would let the team try to sign him to an offer sheet, and then the Ravens could either match it and say, thank you very much for getting him to agree to a contract. We tried for 2 years and we couldn't. Thank you for doing our work for us. And then they've got him under contract. Or they could not match it and take 2 first-round picks. So this can go a lot of different ways. And the other thing that can happen, too, he can have demands that they won't meet, and then as the season unfolds, they could change their mind and say, hey, we'll give you what you wanted. And if he's still willing to take that, they could get this done during the season. Just because he wants to get it done by week 1 doesn't mean that the door is forever shut.
Well, I got a franchise tag as their backstop, too, for next year. So it's not like this is a do or die, but obviously they'd like to do it for various reasons. And hopefully he gets what he wants. I'm Mike Florio here on the Rich Eisen Show. The Jimmy G situation, walk me through the dates where clocks strike midnight and things have to happen and what the Niners are thinking, or Jimmy G. What do you got for me on that one?
4 p.m. Eastern, coming up in just 4 days. That's when the roster cuts to 53. Would they otherwise part ways with a guy that they want on the team? Cut him, he goes through waivers, he gets claimed, he's gone forever. Would they do that? Would they basically carry 52 guys on the roster and keep Jimmy Garoppolo after Tuesday? And I think they will, because they're still waiting for lightning to strike in the form of a starting quarterback getting lost for the season with another team a la Teddy Bridgewater 2016. So the next key date after August 30 is September 10, 4 p.m. Eastern. If he's on the roster at that moment, his salary locks in under the CBA. As a practical matter, it's guaranteed all year long, $24.2 million. Now, I'm starting to think they're crazy enough to keep him. And, Rich, here's my theory. I've been meaning to write this, and I haven't gotten around to it yet.
Okay.
I think they are seriously considering paying him at that rate every week through the trade deadline while they wait for that call to come. And we saw it 11 years ago. Carson Palmer, who was not going to play for the Bengals again, and the Bengals weren't inclined to trade him. Jason Campbell breaks a collarbone for the Raiders, and the Raiders cough up what it takes to get Carson Palmer 2 days before the trade deadline. So I think they could be inclined to pay him 1 week at a time, and then if we get past the trade deadline, it could be an OBJ situation where they say to Jimmy G, look, we can just keep paying you, but you can't play for anyone else. Or we'll cut you if you agree to take 40%, 50%, 60%, whatever percent of your remaining money. If you cut some of that debt that we owe you for your freedom, then that's something we would consider, and that's exactly what the Browns did last year with OBJ. And I think that's the end game. They hold if they're crazy enough to keep him beyond week 1, you keep him through week 8, through the trade deadline, and if you don't get an opportunity to trade him, then you work out a deal where he gives up some of that money on the back end, and he moves on and waits for an opportunity to try to play for a team at some point this year. But it's so different at quarterback than receiver.
Mm-hmm.
Because who are you going to play for? You're still waiting for someone to get injured, and are they really going to sign you and plug you in December or January when they have a backup who knows the offense and knows the personnel? I think that's a stretch.
And they still have, if Lance gets hurt, right, Jimmy G would be there.
That's all the more reason to kind of keep him on ice. That injury that they're waiting for could happen in their own backyard. And wouldn't that be the ultimate outcome to this, that Jimmy G ends up playing for the 49ers and they end up getting to the playoffs and
Super Bowl,
to the brink of the Super Bowl again.
Oh, my God. Mike Florio, thank you for the time, and thank Mrs. PFT for making you available for us today. I appreciate that. Happy anniversary to you two, crazy lovebirds, and look for my call as always. And if you ever need me for anything, I'm there. Thanks for the call.
All right, thanks, pal. Have a great weekend.
Right back at you at Pro Football Talk, a must follow.